Welcome to Startup Experiment Diary. I'm here to break down one of the most incredible startup success stories of 2025. Today, we're diving deep into Anysphere, the company that achieved something that sounds impossible. They built a $9.9 billion company in just 3 years without spending a single dollar on marketing. If you're building a startup, thinking about starting one, or just fascinated by how companies can grow this fast, then this video is for you. We're going to analyze exactly how four MIT graduates turned their frustration with coding tools into the fastest growing SaaS company in history. And the best part, everything they did, in my personal opinion, is replicable. Hi, I am Dr. Ehonia Obed, and I have one goal: to build a successful startup one day. So I've decided to learn from every startup I can, the billion-dollar winners like Anthropic and Perplexity, the rising stars like Anysphere, and even the ones that failed. I analyzed their strategic decisions, their pivots, their competition tactics, because I believe that every startup has something to teach us. And I want to share these analysis with you so we can all learn together. This is Startup Experiment Diary, where we study all kinds of startups to help us build better companies. If you're building something too, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what startup you think I should analyze next. By the end of this video, you would understand the exact strategies Anysphere used to raise $500 million in annual recurring revenue, why their zero marketing approach worked so well, and most importantly, how you and I can also apply these lessons to our own startup. So let's dive into it. Showing you here, let me start by introducing you to Anysphere. This isn't just another tech startup. This is a company that has fundamentally changed how developers work. And if you watch the deep dive where I did a comparison between the two companies, Anthropic and Anysphere, and I will drop the link in the description so you can check that out. I sort of introduced Anysphere, but yeah, let's dive deeper into them. So they created Cursor, an AI-powered code editor that has become the fastest growing SaaS product in history. Now you might be thinking, what's so special about another code editor? Here's the thing, Cursor isn't just another tool, another code editor. I personally use it and I love it because of the AI integration into VS Code, and I'm very familiar with VS Code. So if they didn't do anything too special, then why is this topic for discussion? I think we should begin with the numbers because these metrics are absolutely mind blowing. In just 3 years, they've reached over $500 million in annual recurring revenue. To put that in perspective, it took companies like Salesforce 6 years to reach 100 million in annual recurring revenue, whilst Anysphere did it in 14 months. Their current valuation of 9.9 billion makes them one of the most valuable private companies in the world. And they did it with a team of just 60 people. But here's what's really impressive: they have over 360,000 paying subscribers, mostly individual developers paying $20 a month. That's not enterprises, that's pure product led growth. More than half of Fortune 500 companies are now using their product, Cursor, and they generate nearly 1 billion lines of code daily. These aren't vanity metrics, these are indicators of a product that has achieved true product market fit. About a team, the story of Anysphere starts with four friends at MIT: Michael True, Swale Asif, Avid Lundmark, and Aman Sanga. But these weren't just any college students. Of course, if they've been able to build such a valuable company, then we can say that they are not just any college student. All four had deep technical backgrounds. They were doing research at MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, had internships at Google, and participated in OpenAI's accelerator program. This is important because it gave them both the technical expertise and the industry connections they needed this time around building their company. The idea of Anysphere came from personal frustration. During late night hackathons, these four founders kept running into the same problem. As they noted, coding was repetitive, fragmented, and frankly boring. They were spending more time fighting with their tools than actually building cool stuff. And if you're a developer, you always know like the thing that you want to do is to build cool stuff. So when the bugs begin to set in and the frustrations begin to set in, sometimes you even wish you that wasn't the work you were meant to be doing. But yeah, they needed to solve. They realized that the various code tools or the existing products were not necessarily solving the fundamental problem. They saw it as band-aids on wounds that are hidden and are not being solved or being controlled or managed appropriately. So their vision was very ambitious anyway, was to create what they call the engineer of the future, a human AI programmer that could outperform pure AI systems. They weren't trying to replace developers. In their own way, they were trying to give them superpowers, to give developers superpowers. And their mission statements was to make programming an order of magnitude faster, more fun, and more creative. And I believe that they have delivered on that promise, because I now enjoy using Cursor to code, and most of the time, even if I'm debugging, like I tend to leverage the AI to help me fish out what could be the problem so that I can easily fix that. And this is a perfect example of what we'll call founder market fit. They weren't outsiders who were trying to solve a problem they didn't understand. They were developers who lived and breathed the problem they were solving. This gave them credibility with their target audience and ensured they were building something developers actually wanted, not what they thought developers wanted. Now, let's talk about what makes Cursor so special from a technical standpoint. So, why competitors like GitHub Copilot focus on single line, single file suggestions, Cursor understands your entire project. They call this agent mode. And when you give it high level commands like implement authentication across my entire app, and it will automatically make changes across multiple files, understanding the relationship between the different parts of your code base. They also developed something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP, and this is proprietary technology that optimizes how AI understands and responds to code. It's like giving the AI a much better understanding of what you're trying to accomplish, which leads to more accurate, helpful suggestions. And but the technical superiority alone doesn't, I believe, will not be enough to create a $9.9 billion company. So Anysphere nailed the user experience. Like, I mean, I told you that I personally love to use it, and the build case has a fork of VS Code. VS Code is one tool that a lot of developers love, and as developers, we easily fall in love with the tools that we use, such that it comes to a point where people fight over tools, and people fight over which is the best tool or which is a good tool for a particular thing. So it meant that developers who already loved VS Code could easily transition or migrate from their VS Code to using Cursor, and also have all their settings, extensions, and muscle memory transferred over immediately without any barrier to adoption. And once they've been able to remove that what we would term as the biggest barrier to adoption, which is the idea that if it's a new tool, then you have to learn to be able to use the tool, they open the door, the floodgate for developers to easily adopt their product. The interface is conversational, and instead of trying to guess what the AI might suggest, you can literally chat with it about your code. You can ask it to explain bugs, suggest optimization, or even write entire features based on natural language descriptions. looking at this radar chart over here, you can see how Kesa compares to other competitors across key dimensions like project understanding, conversational UI automation, customization, and the likes. They are not just incrementally better, they are significantly better. And you can see Kesa in the green color and competitors in the somewhat yellow, orange, whatever color it is. You can see that. And this kind of technical moat is exactly what you need to justify that 9.9 billion valuation in a competitive market like AI coding. The key insight here is that they didn't try to compete on features. They competed on fundamentally reimagining what a development environment could be in the age of AI. Here's where the story gets really interesting. Anysphere has never spent a dollar on traditional marketing. At least that's what I found from my research. No Google ads, no Facebook campaigns, no enterprise sales team. Their customer acquisition cost from a marketing perspective is literally zero. And yet they've grown faster than any SaaS company in history. The question is, how is this even possible? The answer I found is community driven, product led growth. Like from day one, Anysphere focus on building an incredible product and letting their users become their marketing department. They seeded early discussions on Reddit, Twitter, and Hacker News, not with paid promotions, but with genuine participation in developer communities. The viral moment came when someone posted a video of an 8-year-old building a complete app using Kesa. That video exploded across social media, not because Anysphere paid for promotion, but because it was genuinely impressive. Developers started sharing their own Kesa creations, and each impressive AI generated code snippet became an organic marketing content for them. This is what I personally would call product led virality. When your product creates outputs that are naturally shareable, you don't need to pay for marketing. Every time a developer like myself used Kesa to solve a complex problem or generate impressive code, I really want to share it. And I believe that's what happens to every other developer. If you've been able to do something awesome, especially if it is something that ideally you wouldn't have been able to do or could have taken you years to do, and because of these new products that you're using you're able to do it in a very short time, then you would want to go out there and talk about it. So that's what they did to grow, and they also benefited from what I call the developer network effect. When one developer on a team starts using Cursor and becomes dramatically more productive, their teammates notice. And I remember I was working in a team and we started having discussions. Everybody was recommending tools that they were using. And you could see that as developers, we really love our tools. And if I found something really helpful or useful, I'm going to make recommendations to my colleagues. Pretty soon, the whole team wants access to that tool. And this drove their expansion into Fortune 500 companies without any enterprise sales efforts. Here's a brilliant part. While their competitors were spending millions on marketing, Anysphere reinvested that money into research and development and infrastructure. This created a virtuous cycle. Better products led to more organic growth, which generated more revenue to invest in making a product even better. Anysphere's pricing strategy is what analysts call planet fitness model, where we have low prices, high volume, and incredible retention. Instead of trying to extract maximum revenue per customer, they focus on making their product accessible to as many developers as possible. Their free tier is genuinely generous, and I have used both their free tier and their pro, tier as well. A 2-week pro tier trial in their free tier package plus 2,000 code completions and GPT-4 requests, all of this. I believe that this isn't just a demo for you to have an idea of what it is. It's enough to get developers hooked. And I personally, when I started using it, the first 2 weeks, the 2 week trial of the pro was what got me hooked, and I had to pay to start using it. The key insight is that once developers experience the productivity boost from AI-assisted coding, they can't go back to traditional tools. Like I find it really difficult now not working with a tool like Cursor. Even if I went back to VS Code, I'll probably be using VS Code with another AI extension like GitHub Copilot or the like. So very, very important. If you get somebody hooked on this and they feel dependent on it, then they do not want to go back to the old ways. The $20 monthly pro plan is what they call no-brainer pricing. It's low enough that individual developers can expense it without approval, but the value proposition is so strong that it feels like stealing. When a tool makes you 5 to 10 times more productive, $20 a month is essentially free. Like you think about it, and indeed it's a no-brainer. This volume-based approach has generated over 360,000 paying subscribers. Compare that to enterprise-focused companies that might have hundreds of customers paying millions each. Anysphere chose volume over premium pricing, and it's clearly working for them. If they've been able to build a company that's worth 9.9 billion after 3 years, then indeed something is working. What's fascinating is how their revenue model has evolved. Initially, most revenue came from individual subscriptions, but as teams and companies saw the productivity gains, they started demanding enterprise licenses. This Anysphere responded by introducing business plans and added an ultra tier at $200 per month for power users. This evolution shows the power of bottom-up adoption. Instead of trying to sell to executives who might not understand the technical benefits, they sold to the developers who would actually use the product. And once those developers prove the value, then enterprise adoption followed naturally, because the developers, once they're using it, are going to make recommendation for their executives to buy into it. The beauty of this model is the unit economics. With zero customer acquisition cost and high retention rates due to the productivity gains, every new subscriber is almost pure profit after covering infrastructure costs. Let's walk through Anysphere's growth timeline, because the speed here is unprecedented. They launched in April 2023 with a beta release to the developer community. By late 2023, they had raised $1 million in annual recurring revenue. That's product market fit validation in just 8 months. Let me repeat that again. In just 8 months, they had raised $1 million annual recurring revenue. But here's where it gets crazy. By August 2024, they raised a $60 million Series A at a $400 million valuation. By the end of 2024, they had raised 100 million annual recurring revenue, making them the fastest SaaS company ever to hit this milestone. For context, it took a company like Slack 2 years, it took Zoom 3 years, and it took Salesforce 6 years to raise 100 million annual recurring revenue. And they had done this in just a couple of months. Looking at the growth chart, you can see the classic exponential curve every startup dreams of. I mean, that's the goal that everyone is hoping to achieve. But what's remarkable is how sustained this growth has been. Their annual recurring revenue has been doubling approximately every 2 months. And that's not just fast growth, that's hyper growth. It's hyper growth. The valuation growth is even more dramatic, from 0 to $9.9 billion in 3 years, represents a compound annual growth rate that's almost impossible to achieve in any traditional business. This kind of growth is only possible in software, and specifically in software that creates genuine productivity improvements. The question is, what's driving this growth? I believe it's not just the product, though that's obviously crucial. It's a crucial component of it. But I believe it is a combination of perfect timing with the AI boom that we're in right now, a product that delivers immediate value, and a go-to-market strategy that scales without traditional sales and marketing costs, together with the perfect timing, is definitely the reason why, or it's the driving force for this growth that you're seeing. I believe that the key insight here is that when you have true product market fit, growth becomes almost inevitable. The challenge for us who are starting out is that building something, like, it's for us to build something that is so good that people can't help but talk about it. And I see this every single day. Any moment I start talking about Cursor to people, I can see the joy in my voice, and I do not even want to stop talking about it. Now let's talk about what you and I can actually learn from Anysphere SaaS. I believe that these aren't just interesting observations that we have listed, but these are also actionable strategies that you and I can apply to our own startup, regardless of the industry we find ourselves in. First, product-led growth, as we have discussed, beats paid marketing. But in this case, it would be possible only if your product is genuinely remarkable. Anysphere didn't just build a good product, they built something that made developers dramatically more productive. When your product creates outputs that people naturally want to share, you don't need to pay for marketing. At least that's something that we see from their company strategies and what they've been able to achieve. The key is in building features that are inherently viral. So every time someone, and as I shared myself, for example, every time someone like me uses Cursor to generate impressive code, they want to show it off. That's organic marketing that money can't buy. So ask yourself, as you're building any product, does your product create those moments that users want to share? And now it is one of the things that I begin to think about when I start implementing features or thinking about features to incorporate into the products that we are building. Thinking about how do we create those moments that users want to share. Secondly, focusing on organic community building over paid advertisements can also be crucial. We have to understand that most of the time, the marketing aspect can be a burden. It can cost us a lot of money, such that even if we are making a lot of money, when you deduct the cost of marketing from it, you make little to no money at all. So if there is a possibility of building organic community, then that could be a better focus over the paid advertisement. Anysphere succeeded because they became genuine participants in the developer communities, not because they bought ads. They shared their journey, contributed to discussions, and built relationships with influential developers. This approach takes longer than paid advertising, of course, but it's more sustainable and cost effective. Authentic recommendations from peers are infinitely more valuable than paid promotions. The question is, where does your target audience naturally gather, and how can you add value to those communities? So if you can identify where your target audience are gathering frequently, and you can find a way to offer value to these communities, especially through your product. If there is a way that your product can add value to these communities, then you would be able to win over these communities and people will begin to buy into your product. And that's one big lesson that I've learned and I'm also thinking about regularly. Third, if you're going to use a freemium model like they did, then I believe it is worth making it genuinely generous. Like Anysphere's free tier provides enough value to create dependencies. Users experience the aha moment that drives conversion before they are asked to pay. Too many companies make their free tiers so limited that users never experience the product's true value. So if you're going to use that freemium model, the goal is to ensure that whatever period that you're giving the users or access to, make sure that that free is giving them so much value that it also justifies why they should add more. But I think when I think about this point as well, I think that there's a balance that needs to be achieved, because if somebody can get all they need with just the free or the freemium or the free package that you've provided them, then there will be no reason for them to convert to paid customers. So we have to achieve that balance where the free is good enough such that it hooks them and makes them want to switch to a pro version. Fourth, I believe that considering volume-based pricing over premium positioning also has a place, just as Anysphere has demonstrated to us. They chose to price for mass adoption rather than maximum revenue per customer. This strategy works when you have low marginal costs and high retention rates. The $20 price point removed friction while still generating substantial revenue at scale. Finally, if you want to, learn what we learned from Anysphere building a successful company is that we need to solve real problems with technical excellence. Anysphere's founders had deep expertise in both AI and developer tools. They didn't just identify a market opportunity, they had the technical skills to build something genuinely superior. Founder market fit matters as much as product market fit. Looking ahead, Anysphere has several paths for continued growth. The most obvious is expanding beyond coding into adjacent markets like design, data analysis, and content creation. Their AI expertise and products development capabilities could translate into or to other knowledge work domains. In fact, recently I watched a video where somebody was illustrating how they're using Cursor to do most of the things in their startup, including their accounting and financial reports and things. And I was amazed. I was blown away. And I believe that there's that possibility where the tool moves away from being just a coding tool, even though it is currently built into VS Code, and they recently released their web-based agents. So I believe there is a possibility that over time they move away, not necessarily move away, but they introduce new domains outside of just for development purposes. I can see that, from the analysis or the research that I did, they are also investing heavily in enterprise focused features. While their bottom up adoption strategy has been incredibly successful, there's enormous opportunities in selling directly to large organizations that centralize their control and security features as well as compliance capabilities. From a technical perspective, they are likely to continue developing custom AI models for specific programming languages and use cases. For the past couple of years that they've been working on this product, they are relying largely on models from other companies, and a lot of frustrations are setting in. If you watch the analysis or comparison video I did between Anthropic and Anysphere, you'd come to understand this. So I believe that as we go forward, there is a possibility that they develop their own models, even though it is quite expensive. But as foundational models become more commoditized, having proprietary AI capabilities will be crucial for maintaining their competitive advantage. International expansion is another obvious opportunity. Most of their current growth has been in English speaking markets, but there is a global community of developers who could equally benefit from AI assisted coding tools. However, they face significant challenges. Like big tech companies like Microsoft, Google, and Amazon are already investing billions in AI coding tools. Microsoft's GitHub Copilot has massive distribution advantages, and Google's resources are essentially unlimited. And they are currently releasing tools that seem more of competitors to Anysphere. So for instance, I currently use, even though I use Cursor, right in Cursor, I also use Gemini CLI, which is from Google. And that means Gemini CLI as it stands now is practically it's free to use. So eventually if the cost is driven down so much by these big tech companies, then it will become a big deal. I mean, it will be a challenge for them to compete. The risk of AI commoditization is real. As foundation models become more accessible and capable, as I'm saying, any sphere's technical modes could erode. They would need to continue innovating to stay ahead of both big tech competitors and even new startups that are entering the space. There is also the challenge of scaling their culture and execution speed. Right now, they are 60-person team that can move incredibly fast, but as they grow, maintaining that agility and innovative culture would be crucial. Many fast growing startups struggle with this transition. Their market share projection shows scales are maintaining a significant position, but competition is intensifying. As you can see, the key would be continuing to innovate faster than competitors can copy their features. So there you have it, the complete breakdown of how Anysphere built a $9.9 billion company in 3 years with zero marketing spend. The key lessons are clear. Build something genuinely remarkable. Let your products be your marketing. Price for adoption over premium positioning, and focus on solving real problems with technical expertise. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure to subscribe to Startup Experiment Diary. We break down the strategies behind the world's fastest growing companies so you can apply these lessons to your own startup journey. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you're building a developer tool or any tool at all, if you are in the startup phase, have you tried implementing any of these growth strategies that we identified from what Anysphere has done? And what other startup success stories would you like us to analyze next on this channel? Remember, we are all about learning, analyzing, and building together. Whether you're just starting your entrepreneurial journey or you're already building your next startup, this channel is here to help you learn from the best. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye bye for now.